This is the woodpecker. It spends all day slamming its face into solid wood, about 20 times a second, and it acts like that is a perfectly reasonable way to live. Each of those hits lands at around 1200 G. A person blacks out at about 100. So the woodpecker takes a knock that would drop a grown adult, then does it again, 12,000 times before the day is out. Most people think the reason is a built-in crash helmet, but there is no helmet. So what is actually saving its brain? For years, the story went that the woodpecker is a little marvel of safety engineering. A spongy skull to soak up the blows, spare bone packed in as a shock absorber, a brain wedged in too tight to rattle. And the strangest piece, a tongue so long it wraps right around the back of the skull, sitting there like a seatbelt for the brain. Engineers loved it so much they built it into their own gear. The woodpecker got written into shock absorber designs, into padded cases for aircraft black boxes, and into pitches for better bike helmets. Then, in 2022, somebody finally filmed it. A team led by Sam van Wassenberg, and sorry if I mangled that, aimed high-speed cameras at 3 kinds of woodpecker and caught them hammering more than 100 pecks, one frame at a time. Now, a shock absorber has one job. If the skull were soaking up the blow, the head would lag behind the beak on impact, squashing down a little the way a car bumper crumples. But the head never lagged. The beak and the skull stopped dead at the same moment, both of them rigid, like a single hammerhead. And a shock absorber would actually make the woodpecker worse at its own job. Any padding that softens the blow to its brain softens the blow to the tree in exactly the same way. A cushioned woodpecker would bounce off the bark and have to peck harder and longer to dig the same hole. Evolution never gave it one. So that leaves the real question. If nothing in there is soaking up the shock, why isn't the brain mush? Before the answer, look at the other 2 things the woodpecker was supposed to be protected by, because neither one holds up. Let's start with the tongue, because it is real and it is genuinely bizarre. It does wrap around the skull. It runs up to 10 centimeters, barbed and sticky, and when it is not in use, it coils up and over the braincase like a loaded spring. But it was never a seatbelt. The woodpecker drills its hole, then fires that tongue deep into the wood to spear the grubs hiding inside. The wrap around the skull is just where all that length is kept. It's just how the woodpecker eats. Then there is the eye. A millisecond before each strike, the woodpecker snaps a thick inner eyelid shut across it. That blink pins the eyeball in place and blocks the flying chips, so a day of hammering does not shake its retina loose or pack its eyes with sawdust. But that eyelid is guarding its eyesight. Nothing in there is guarding the brain. Which brings us back to the brain and the real answer. It's small. A woodpecker brain weighs about 2 grams. A human brain is hundreds of times heavier. That same violent stop, acting on something so tiny and so light, just never builds up enough force to do it any harm. Shrink a brain far enough, and the hit that would flatten a person stays below the level that even bothers it. So nothing is protecting the brain. It just happens to be small enough to take it. So the woodpecker's armor was always imaginary. That stiff skull we all figured was armor is really a hammer, shaped to land the blow, and the bird gets away with swinging it only because the brain riding on top is too small to bruise. It is living right at the edge, though. A bigger woodpecker with a heavier head would start crossing into real concussions, and this one, set loose on metal at full force, really could knock itself out. And the woodpecker pulls all of this off with no protection at all. It drives a 2-gram brain into solid hardwood 12,000 times a day, at a force that would put a grown adult in hospital, and gets up every single time, completely unbothered. No helmet, no padding, just a very small, very hard head that turns out to be exactly enough. If you want another bird brain that works far better than it has any right to, the one about crows holding a grudge for years is already up on the channel. Go give it a watch and subscribe while you're here.